Hello everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Talks. Today, the topic that I'm going to present is drugs and human brain evolution. So, generally, हम जब भी ये term use करते हैं drug, right? तो दो चीज़ दिमाग में आती है. एक है कि either it is related to the some medicinal field जो treatment and therapy में use होगी, या तो फिर इट इज समथिंग दैट इज टैबूड जो लोग नशा करते हैं एंड एडिक्शंस एंड एवरीथिंग. तो ये दो पिक्चर्स हमेशा बड़े बड़े सामने आते हैं, राइट? बट लेट अस फर्स्ट टॉक एग्जैक्टली व्हाट ड्रग्स आर, है ना? तो अगर हम डेफिनेशन के हिसाब से जाए तो ड्रग्स आर एनी केमिकल्स, ओके, दैट when introduced into the human body will make some biological effects or alter the basic biological chemistry. So it can be anything, any chemical जब भी बॉडी में इंट्रोड्यूस की जाए और अगर उसने आपकी फिजियोलॉजिकल एक्टिविटी को अल्टर की, उसे आप ड्रग कह रहे हो. ओके, अब ये टर्म, ये वर्ड, ये आता कहाँ से? तो ड्रग इंग्लिश में इट्स अ इंग्लिश टर्म, बट अगर हम इसे देखें इसकी हिस्ट्री, ये वर्ड आता है बाय अ वेरी ओल्ड फ्रेंच वर्ड कॉल्ड ड्रोग. ओके, एंड ड्रोग जो है ये आता है सम मिडिल डच टर्म से. वो टाइम पे कहते थे द्रोगवाते. ओके, वेयर द टर्म द्रोग लिटरली मीन्स ड्राइड एंड वैरी या वाते बेसिकली मीन्स स्पाइस. सो
Like
उन
spice.
जमाने में बेसिकली होता था कि जो भी हर्ब्स होते थे, जनरली वो हर्ब्स होते थे पेड़ पौधे, उसको सुखाते थे एंड सुखा के उसका पाउडर बना के they used to store it in barrels, right? And those were now called as drugs. Later on, एक और interrelated word है, which is DRO with double dots and G, drog,
Hmm.
which is a old German term, and it seems कि दोनों के दोनों quite interrelated terms है. And in terms का और further कोई origin is not very clear yet. अब बात करते हैं यहाँ पे कि जब भी हमने ड्रग्स इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया तो एक स्टडी हुई थी एंड इट वाज फाउंड कि व्हेन इट कम्स टू द ह्यूमन ब्रेन, उसके ऊपर या ब्रेन पे कुछ रिसेप्टर्स होते हैं एंड दोज रिसेप्टर्स आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू रिसीव आइदर द ओपियोइड्स और कैनाबिनॉइड्स. सो पहले ये जान लेते हैं कि कैनाबिनॉइड्स एंड ओपियोइड्स क्या है. कैनाबिनॉइड्स आर दी ड्रग्स जो डिराइव होते हैं कैनबीस से. कैनबिस इज अ प्लांट. दो तरीके के होते हैं. इंडिया में जो हमें मिलता है इज कॉल्ड एज कैनबिस सटाई इंडिका. इट्स इन द नेम कैनबिस इंडिका, विच इज फाउंड इन इंडिया. छोटे छोटे पत्ते होते हैं, राइट? एंड आई कम टू द डिटेल्स लेटर. एंड द दूसरा प्लांट एक है कैनबिस सटाइवा, जिसका ओरिजिन बेसिकली अफ्रीकन कॉन्टिनेंट से, राइट? जिसके लीफ साइज में थोड़े बड़े होते हैं, राइट?
Right.
अब द पॉइंट इज, इन द ईयर 1988 देयर वाज दिस साइंटिस्ट, ओके, जिनका नाम था एलन हॉलेट. उन्होंने एक तरीका यूज किया. दे यूज्ड अ टेक्निक वेयर ही रेडियो लेबल्ड द कैनाबिनॉइड्स, ओके, एंड देन ही इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इट टू द ह्यूमन ब्रेन जस्ट टू फाइंड आउट कि वो जाके चिपकते कहाँ हैं, राइट? And they later on established that human brains do naturally have the receptors for this cannabinoids. मतलब हमारा दिमाग उसे accept करता है, which means somehow our brain needs it. Okay, somehow the brain needs it,
Wow.
but ये आधा अधूरा सच है. Because later on there was another scientist whose name was Simon Matsuda and et al, और भी उनके
Hmm.
सहभागी. In the year 1990, they cloned a specific receptor जिसे CB1 receptor कहते हैं, cannabinoid receptor 1, right? And इन्होंने ये पता लगाया कि basically ये CB1 receptor पे THC, THC stands for tetra
Hydro.
hydrocannabinol. It is a very active component of the cannabis that induces the state of high. तो जो लोग either whenever they consume cannabis either smoke it or eat it, right, वो जो state of high उनको आ रहा है, जो नशा आ रहा है, that is induced by this THC. So that is the main psychoactive element over there. एंड वो मेन साइकोएक्टिव एलिमेंट को रिसीव करने के लिए हमारे पास ब्रेन में उसके रिसेप्टर्स है. And this was very prominently proved by another scientist, and he's considered to be the father of cannabinoid sciences, basically a neurologist from Israel. His name is Raphael McCollum, and he basically also found out one interesting part. देखो इन्होंने ना 1992 में ये बोला कि जो पहले की रिसर्चर्स हुए वो सही है. What Alan Howlett and what Simon Matsuda said are correct. That human brains have CB1 receptors that are very much active binding sites for the THC or the cannabinoids to attach. But he said that in the year 1992, कि there are something called as endogenous components, एक ऐसे components which our body produces on its own, and this component he named it as anandamide or anamide, right? And anamide basically is a component which our body produces that acts like the THC और दैट एक्ट्स लाइक द कैनाबिनॉइड जो हमारे ब्रेन के लिए नेचुरली
जी
उसको ट्रिगर
चाहिए,
करने
हाँ।
के लिए बना है. सो यहाँ पे अभी दो चीज है. एक क्वेश्चन आता है कि somehow the human brain has evolved in such a way कि उसे ये साइको एक्टिव एलिमेंट्स चाहिए.
हम्म,
एंड एक और सर्च ये कहती है कि the human brain by itself is capable to produce those compounds that can trigger such actions in the body, right? अब यहाँ पे देखो, द पॉइंट इज, अगर हम देखें या अगर हम पूछे कि हाउ डिड द ह्यूमन ब्रेन्स actually evolve in terms of this psychoactive elements being in the nature. तो ऑब्वियसली इसके दो बहुत ही कॉमन रीजंस जो अब तक दिए गए हैं. वन इज दैट द प्रिमिटिव मैन, राइट, they used to eat the herbs, the plants, whatever they were available. Obviously, they ate all of these components, these plants, as an accident,
हम्म,
right? And accidentally, they must have tumbled around all of these components. Somehow, later on, ऐसा हुआ होगा. Now again, see, in the world of evolution, the word maybe or this might have occurred is a prominent thing. We cannot change it because we are still in the quest of seeking or searching. So what happened is, or what might have happened is, he, when human was feeding on it, the components might have relieved some pain,
हम्म,
might have helped to get off some of the pathogens from the system, or might have triggered some activities in the brain which they felt that it was good. And out of all of this, they later on used it as per the purposes or as per their needs. So this is something that is very commonly found if agar hum dekhe the uses. Uh, all of this psychoactive elements specifically, and now this whole talk basically, as I said, drug agar hum dekhe, so it's a very huge area to discuss. So यहाँ पे I'm specifically focusing on the psychoactive elements. Okay. तो यहाँ पे psychoactive elements में अगर हम जाए तो cannabinoids, as I considered, is one. Second is the use of mushrooms, specifically इसे magic mushrooms कहते हैं, right? या फिर and the third one that I actually wanted to discuss is a very unique drink called as ayahuasca, right? अभी ये तीनों की जो यूसेज है ना, ये बहुत ही यूनिक है. because एक तो if we look into the cannabinoids, so within our Indian culture, or when it comes to India as a context, it was one of the major herb that was used in most of our Ayurvedic medicines, all thanks to its THC and the CBD levels. Because ये stress, anxiety and और भी बहुत सारी disorders को treat करने में काम आता था. And apart from that, it also had many more medicinal uses. But I'm not here to promote cannabinoids right now, so I'll not
mm,
talk on it. But apart from that, uh, it was also used in religious aspects, right? जैसे religious aspects आज के टाइम पे अगर हमें पता है तो हम कहते हैं कि is used to worship Lord शिव, एंड उसे प्रसाद के जैसे लिया जाता है. बहुत बार हम कहते हैं जिन्हें, आई डो नॉट नो अगर ये सही टर्म होगा, साधक या बहुत सारे ऐसे रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस, लाइक टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, तांत्रिक प्रैक्टिसेस इन विच यूज ऑफ कैनाबिनॉइड्स इज अ वेरी प्रोमिनेंट थिंग. उसके बिना बहुत सारे रिचुअल्स आगे ही नहीं बढ़ते हैं,
mm,
राइट? सो द पॉइंट इज, इसका अपना एक अप्रोच है which I will add on later. Yes, occult sciences, thank you. Now the second is ayahuasca. Now ayahuasca is also called as the soul wine of the soul. Okay, it literally translates to that, wine of the soul. एंड ये हमें लैटिन अमेरिकन नेशंस, और बेसिकली लेट अस से द अमेजोन फॉरेस्ट्स जहाँ पे है, वहाँ पे इसका यूज़ अभी भी बहुत प्रोमिनेंट है. Basically it is used for all the shamanic practices, so again a religious and cultural aspect coming hand to hand. And यहाँ पे ये prominent इसीलिए है because see the fun part is it's a concoction of many different herbs, specifically plant based है. एंड उसमें दो कंपोनेंट्स, दो प्लांट्स बहुत ज़्यादा यूज होते हैं. वन इज बेनिस्ट्रोप्सिस वाइन या बेनिस्ट्रोप्सिस कैपी कहते हैं उसे, राइट? एंड दूसरा एक और प्लांट है जिसका नाम है साइकोटोरिया विरिडिस, राइट? अभी जो बेनिस्ट्रोपिस वाइन्स है, इसके अंदर एक कंपोनेंट होता है जिसे कहते हैं MAO, माओ, विच स्टैंड्स फॉर मोनोअमाइन ऑक्सीडेज. ओके, एंड लुक हाउ ब्यूटीफुल दिस इज कि ये जो साइकोटेरिया विरिडिस जो मैंने कहा, राइट, इट कंटेन्स अ साइकोएक्टिव एलिमेंट विद इन इटसेल्फ which is called as dimethyl tryptamine, right? And this dimethyl tryptamine is basically what we call as DMT, a very active and strong psychoactive element which is used in modern day drugs. And what happens is this monoamine oxidase, which was present in one plant, is actually acting as an inhibitor, and it does not allow the DMT to break in the gut cavity. So when you consume ayahuasca, right, you're consuming a lot of DMT that is naturally being taken. And what monoamine oxidase does is it does not allow the breakdown of it so that it can be absorbed by the system. It gets into the bloodstream and then it induces effect.
wow,
And one of the effect that it induces is in the state where it takes the person into uh, like let's say a state of trance. Somehow it says that it taps into the subconscious state of the mind and allows the individual to observe what exactly is in there. When I say what exactly is in there, it unlocks the repressed memories. And that is where people take it and then they go into that state,
थोड़ा मैं
and
बाद में
then
ले
they
लूंगा,
also puke it out.
बाद में ले
They
लूंगा,
puke a lot. So puking is
थोड़ा
now for
चाहिए,
them considered as purging. अब obviously system to clean
आधा,
हो रहा है scientifically.
आधा,
And look at the DMT, what is it doing? It is basically allowing you to just recollect what was deep down there and then let it go, or at least let you realize that this is something that is bothering me the most. I do not know about the letting go part, but yes, realization is something that is important. So that was about ayahuasca. And then comes the next one, that is in the Aztec civilization. Okay, there is something called as Teo Nana Kotha. Okay, I'll just write down the spelling for you because it's quite difficult for me to pronounce. It's Teonanacatl, right? And this literally means the flesh of the gods. So within the Mayan civilization or within the culture, they used to consume this mushrooms, which contains psilocybins. Psilocybins are basically inactive by nature, but once consumed, right, and it has been broken down by the human intestines, basically digested, to actually get it converted into a active component called as psilocins. And psilocin has the same effect that the ayahuasca had. So the whole overall story, if we look, when it came to the cultural aspect or all of this ancient practices, right, they were very much systematically planned. And what was the plan? The plan was very simple. Whenever we look at this consumption of the drugs, we have to understand the plants never made it to benefit us, right? Because see, in nature you have to understand, we are the people who eat plant. So for the plant, we are the predators, and plants wants to protect themselves, and hence they created these psychoactive elements to actually wear off the predator, है ना? बट यहाँ पे हुआ ये कि जब हम अब ये जो थियरी को जो मैं हाईलाइट कर रहा हूँ, इसे कहते हैं हाईजैक मॉडल थियरी, है ना? एंड इसमें ये कहते हैं कि जब भी अगर हमने एक प्लांट को कंज्यूम किया, तो उसके जो टॉक्सिन्स हैं वो हमारे लिए ड्यूल वे में काम करते हैं. ड्यूल प्रॉपर्टी इज, नंबर वन, इट एक्टिवेट्स द थ्रेट मैकेनिज्म इन द बॉडी. एक कुछ तो थ्रेट है. एंड सेकेंड इज, इट ऑल्सो वर्क्स ऑन द रिवॉर्ड, द नेचुरल रिवॉर्ड सिस्टम, द डोपामिन साइकिल ऑफ द बॉडी. ये उस पर काम करता है. ओके, सो अब द थिंग इज, जो ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स थे इनको लेने के, ये काफी हद तक ये पुराने जो मेथड है, दैट इज द थ्रेट मैकेनिज्म, उसे भी कुछ हद तक ट्रिगर करता था. एंड हेंस इट वाज नॉट डायरेक्टली हैकिंग इनटू द नेचुरल रिवॉर्ड सिस्टम. But later on, now if I talk about the modern day drugs, okay, due to the very fast paced development where there is a lot of purification,
ब्रेड नहीं
so
चाहिए,
we
ब्रेड
have removed all of these
ब्रेड नहीं।
unwanted effects, right? And now when you consume such
Thank you.
drugs, what will happen is it is straight away acting on the reward mechanism,
Hmm.
but it is not triggering that threat mechanism of the body. So what happens is, now we are getting something that is not at all harmful but absolutely fine. So the body develops dependency on it. And this is a very strange aspect, where I was unable to, like, conclude the whole topic. Basically, a question that when we had such well developed techniques, traditional techniques, that were actually working in the benefit of the evolution of the mankind or the humankind, in today's world we have completely eradicated it, tabooed it, illegalized it, and then straight away introduced something that is quick, functional, but also at the same time very much dependent. I mean, it makes us dependent on it. And with that, I end my talk today.